So I lived in the same house for about 10 years or so when this happened. Now I live in a dorm room, and quite a few scary things happened to me and my sister as we shared a bedroom. We're only 3 years apart, and both girls. She didn't like to sleep alone at the time like most kids. Well, about 5 years living in that house, my sister was about 10 and she was on the top bunk of our bunk bed. In the middle of the night she suddenly screamed, and I woke up asking what happened. She said she looked over the bunk bed rail and saw a figure in white, a female walking around. For the sake of keeping her calm, I told her it was me getting up to get a drink. She accepted it and went back to sleep, but it wasn't me. Since then, nothing happened until we moved into a different room in the house, switching rooms with our parents since they were putting down a new carpet. After the first week, I started waking up in the middle of the night from different things. Some of them were just something smacking my bed, like with a large book. Several times I woke up with someone whispering into my ear. I would hear things fall to the floor, but in the morning, nothing had. There was only one time I ever saw anything, and I believe it to be a different, spirit than the one that woke me up all the time. It was standing over my bed, and for the few seconds I saw it, I saw my grandfather who died when I was 10. This was kinda weird, but I was almost expecting it, as 4 other people in my family has seen his spirit, and my grandmother thinks he's watching over us and keeping bad away. I screamed, and after that, I stopped being woken up in the morning by whatever until it came back for a few months, but there were fewer incidents. Ever since I moved to my dorm room, there's been nothing, which is good. The only noise I hear is the person next door getting ready for work at 3 in the morning. And now, since my sister has taken over my bed at home because there was a spider on hers and my bed was more comfortable, I've been sleeping in the guest/game room, my older brother's room. I haven't had anything happen to me. Still, just thinking about it makes me freak out. It all happened when I was 10, and I was mostly up every single night, and I would usually go to sleep at around 2:30 in the morning, but every night I would always feel uneasy and see things. One night, I decided I needed to go downstairs and get a drink of Pepsi. I reached for the Pepsi bottle, poured a glass, and the moment I put my lips on the glass, I heard a young girl, which she had to be around 7 years old, but sadly, I can't remember what she said. As soon as she finished her sentence, my vision went hazy and I almost collapsed but held myself up on the table next to me. A few weeks later, my vision decreased badly and I needed to get glasses. Then when I was 12, I was on my phone and I was texting my friend Frederick, and I heard a voice, which was the girl's, and I'm sure she said, "Remember me?" and giggled, and then my vision going hazy again. But thankfully, I couldn't collapse because I was on my bed, but I couldn't move, and I dropped my phone on my chest. After about a minute of laying there motionless, I could move my body again, but my right eye was in extreme pain, and now sadly I can't see out of my right eye. But what is really strange, the doctors say that there is absolutely no signs of anything wrong with my eye. I haven't heard the girl or experienced anything else since, but I wouldn't mind it happening again. These things just seem so interesting and puzzling. My mother adores horror just as much as I do, but for some reason, she refuses to speak of her experiences with the paranormal. She just shakes it off and says she has none, but even I could tell she wasn't telling the truth. Before my grandfather died, I would often visit his house as a child to hang out with him and play with my PlayStation. Once I turned 13, about 2 years ago, I assumed my mom finally thought I was old enough to know what had happened to her. She said to never, ever fuck with spirits like she had. I was surprised, as my mother's a very relaxed, sweet individual who doesn't look like one who would mess with spirits. She sat me down on the couch and explained that in my grandpa's basement, she and a few of her friends in the 80s would go and mess with a Ouija board among other things. She continued talking about how she and her friends hadn't believed in ghosts, and would often mock the spirits, believing the planchette wasn't really moving and that it was all some big joke. However, one night while she was doing this, her and a few of her friends were drunk and said her memory was foggy for the rest of the night, although she could clearly remember the incident. My grandpa was upstairs watching TV, and her, my dad, and a few friends were in the basement with the Ouija board. She had never been physically hurt by the Ouija board and assumed many happenings were just jokes, as she was very stubborn. Anyways, what had actually happened was, her and her friends had asked the entity if it was there. It had said yes, and my parents, being the skeptics they were, ignored it and proceeded to mock the entity, saying things like "you're a loser" and various insults. The entity didn't respond, and the light bulb that illuminated the basement had shattered, leaving my parents in complete darkness. One of their friends, Michelle, had began to vomit uncontrollably in the dark. Once my mom had gone up the old wooden basement steps to open the door, one of the steps had broken, scraping her leg badly. She had scrambled up the rest of the stairs to open up the door, letting in some light. Once the light was in the room, vomit was pooled on the floor and the board was broken, and the many boxes were strewn all over the room instead of neatly stacked as they had been. After that event, my mother strongly believes in spirits and vows to never use anything like Ouija boards again. She says she still feels some kind of entity sometimes, something watching her or following her. After my grandpa died, my family didn't keep the house and it got sold to someone else. I hadn't been there since I was 9. To this day, I have never been in that basement, nor have I seen anyone else enter that goddamn basement.